Hello everyone and welcome back to Bitwig Studio and Music Production. This is lesson 3.07. And in this lesson, we're going to take a look at a couple of different versions of the infamous inspector panel. So you've seen me open this and close this a number of times, and we haven't really looked at it and talked about it in too much detail. So we're finally going to do that. And when I first opened up Bitwig Studio, my thought was the inspector panel isn't going to change. So if I click on something new, the inspector panel will always stay the same. In fact, it is quite the opposite. The inspector panel seems to change based on every level of hierarchy that you click within Bitwig Studio. And what you'll also notice about Bitwig Studio early on is that there are 100 different ways to do the exact same thing. For example, controlling my fader here, I can do it with in 3 ways from this same view. So if I wanted to control it for this second clip here, I have to go to audio 2. You see as I pull it down, you can see it's changing on 3 different views all at the same time. So don't let Bitwig kind of scare you. Just because it has a lot of different views doesn't mean that it's any more complicated of a program than anything else. In fact, all it means is that you can kind of work in different ways. So if you're getting really tired and bored of working on the arrangement timeline, you could go into the clip launcher, you could work in there, or you could work in the mix view, right? So we have just a variety of choices, and don't let those scare you when you open up this program, because it's really a pretty simple program when it comes down to it. So let's talk about the inspector panel here. And if I click on one of these tracks, we're going to see we have our master, an audio 2, and an audio 1. So let's use audio 2 for right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to name this my voice because I'm going to record into here. I can change the color if I want, so let's change it here. And this is a pitch bend range for the track itself. So if you have something going that's going to be utilizing pitch bend, like on your MIDI controller or something, you could set the range. So we could, if we wanted to, set this to 1 octave or something. But it really doesn't matter for our purposes here. Now I've gone ahead and set up Bitwig to record my built-in microphone on my computer. I'll just quickly review how to do that. Options, preferences, audio, input device, built-in microphone. Then we do need to open up our inputs and outputs, which is down here on this panel. And then I can change it to my mono input. To make sure it's working, I can monitor it by selecting this button here. Now we're getting the monitored version as well. And what I can do is now just record something in quickly. So I'm going to click the record button and let's click play. I need to make sure I enable record right here. I'm going to turn off the auto monitor and we should be good to go. This is a test and a look at the inspector panel. Great, lovely. Let's turn record off. Let's solo this back, take a listen. This is a test and a look at the inspector panel. So that's not very interesting. That's just my voice, but we're going to see as we take a look at this inspector panel a little deeper, we're going to be able to do some pretty wild and crazy things. So I'm going to go ahead and take this and put it back to no input just to be safe. And now I'm going to click on the audio clip. So let's delete our other track. Turn solo off, and I'm just going to click this, and now watch how the inspector panel changes. Now we don't have a name and we don't have a color. That's because a clip can be named differently from the track. So I'm going to go back and I'm just going to call this track 1. And now for this specific clip, I'm going to call it the inspector. I'll click enter and you'll see the name pops up there. Now we can change the color of this and make it independent if we want. Here, we just see some of the details about the clip. So if I want to make my clip longer, like let's say I want to make this exactly 5 bars, or maybe I'll make it 4 bars. I can go to and select 4, bring this down to 0. And now our clip is here. This is indicating the time at which we're starting. So in this case, we're at 111. We obviously could change that if we wanted to and pull it over, but we can also do that by just dragging and dropping, so not really all that exciting. Offset, if we want to start the clip later in itself, we could do that, but just be kind of careful with that. because unless we're looping, we're going to lose parts of the clip. So if I bring this
is a test.
And I set this at 211. Now we're going to be starting at the second bar.
Test and a look at the inspector panel.
All right, so I'm just going to go back to 111. If I want to turn on the looping, I can do that. And now, right now, it's looping within the clip. So it's only looping that one bar. It's not even using this loop icon up here. So I play this back.
This is a test. This is a test. This is a test.
So maybe I want to loop 2 bars instead.
This is a test.
Now I can pull up my length.
This is a test and a look at the This is a test and a look at the This is a test.
All right, not really anything super exciting. Obviously, mute is going to mute the track, but it will uniquely mute the clip. Okay, so we could have a second clip going and not have that muted. So that's going to be very handy. I'll show that to you right now. If I was to duplicate this and pull it over, now I click on this clip specifically, I can mute that one, but this one is still going to play back. So that is the way that you can deactivate clips inside of Bitwig. Very handy stuff right there. Let's go ahead and, well, we can leave the loop on for right now. We're going to skip over the shuffle and accent for a bit. We're not going to really be touching on that for a while, but we will get to it. For now, though, let's focus on the next options we have here. So I can duplicate this out if I want, duplicate the full clip, and let's just set this to 5 for right now. It's going to do exactly what you think.
This is a test and a look at the This is a test and a look at the
Now I can bounce this clip as well, and what it will do is it's going to get rid of this loop line here and just make me one full file. So I'm going to click bounce here, and it did exactly like I thought. So now if I play it back,
this is a test and a look at the This is a test and a look at the
Pretty cool. Double content. It's doubled it out.
This is a test and a look at the
And by doing that, it's actually bounced it as well.
And a look at the This is a.
All right, a really fun one we can click on is reverse, and here's where we start getting some sound design possibilities. All right, pretty cool. These other features here are really, really cool for sound design as well. So we can scale this down to half its time. Take a listen to that. And I could also then do the exact opposite, and I can really stretch this out and make it kind of interesting. And we could reverse it back if we wanted to. Sounds a little bit like a saw wave. And then don't forget, we have all of those parameters that we talked about before from the editor. If we wanted to go in here and mess around with it, I could take like the pitch, for example, and I could just pull the whole thing up to, I don't know, see if I can get it right on 12. If I can't, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but see. All right, so now if I listen back. All right, cool stuff. Where were we? We're back in the inspector panel. I was having too much fun. And actually, that's all that I wanted you to focus on for within the clip, because from the clip, we also have another level down, which is the event itself. So if I go into the clip and I select the event, this is what I have. Now, based on that moment when we doubled the content, we actually created 2 events. And so if I want to control both of them at the same time, I'd have to hit shift, and now you can see this has changed from 1 audio event to 2 audio events. Okay, the only way that I could make this all one audio event would be to bounce it down again, bounce it further, and then this would all be one audio event. So if I go in here and I select bounce, I think it should do that for me. Let's see. Might take a little bit of time because now it's really long when I stretched it way, way out. And you can see that it's doing it here. I probably shouldn't have clicked on that, but there it goes. So once it finishes, we're now just going to have the one audio event, and we're going to look at some of the parameters and controls we have to manipulate this clip inside of the inspector view for the audio event specifically. Now, you can access this from the clip view, but personally, I kind of like working and knowing that I'm focusing on one area. So if I click the event, that's all I'm going to have control over. And yeah, good stuff. And it brings it all up to view for me. So we have kind of these same controls. Now we're changing the start of the actual audio event. So you can see that it's pushing it, and it's pushing it within the clip here. So we're losing some parts as it goes beyond the range of the clip, and we'd have to go back into the clip and we'd have to lengthen it. So if I was to then go in here and move it a little bit, it would stay inside the boundaries of the clip. But for now, I'm happy with that. Here we have our length, and we could adjust that if we wanted to, but it's good enough for me. Again, our mutes, and we've seen these fade buttons quite a bit. It's going to add a start and an end. So if we are looping this, it tries to prevent any sort of clicks and pops from occurring. So if I loop this guy up, uh-oh, it's not actually what I want to do. If I go in here. So if I go in here and I loop it, and now I play back, preferably from near the very end. When it goes back around, it's supposed to prevent loops or clicks and pops, and we've already looked at that before, so hopefully that all makes sense to you guys already. We now have our different stretch modes, and we've looked at that a number of times, and we can choose whether or not we want to preserve the onset markers. So it's just going to try to make those peaks in the audio signal a little bit more accurate. Now, in our case, I don't really care. I might actually change this to repitch so that we can come up with something really interesting. And let's play this back real quick. Maybe I want to reverse it. And now you can see we've obviously just hit a glitch in the program and our audio file has disappeared, but it's still playing back. I'm going to try to undo to see if I can get it back. Okay, cool. We're back again, luckily. So we have those different modes that we can stretch our audio if we want to. We can adjust the tempo down here as well. And that's obviously causing a bit of a glitch with the program. So I guess we'll leave that alone for now. We can also change the gain from in here. So if we want to bring it down, we can do that very simply. We can also then change the panning, whether we want to throw it way to the left or way to the right. And then we could adjust the pitch as well. So let's see if I can actually do that. Probably won't let me do that because we're working in repitch mode right now. But if we were out of repitch mode into stretch, I can go up or down by 24 half steps. So duplicate is going to duplicate the clip. In this case, it's not really going to have too much of an effect because we already have all of our space. But if I bring this back and I really shorten it, and then I duplicate it, you'll see it just like that. If we select the legato, it's going to try and fill the space between these two audio events. So legato is basically just like if you're playing a part on a synthesizer, it makes sure that every end of one note meets the start of a second, and we'll show that later. But if I select those two and click legato, you can see it's added in that space so that we could combine those two together. Now, obviously, we can have a little bit of fun, and we could reverse one. I had both of them selected there, but I could reverse these individually if I wanted to. And same thing when I have multiple selected, so let's change it. Let's make this guy smaller. Pull him back in. If I select the 3 of these, I can actually reverse this pattern, and you see how it changed those around. So let's listen to this. Pretty cool. We also have a split at onsets. Now, I'm not sure how many onsets have actually been added. If I click on onsets, it doesn't look like I have much of any. But if I add in a few, which I'm not sure if this is going to work because this does cause some issues sometimes in the program. It doesn't let you like add onsets in after you've done a lot of things. But if I click split at onsets, assuming we had a bunch of onsets in there, and you can see it did generate some, it's now made different clips. All right, so different little audio events. The terminology isn't important, but now we have all of these, and we could rearrange them if we wanted to. All right, but once you get really crazy in here, sometimes stuff doesn't start popping up in the program. And what does this button do? I actually don't know what this is going to do. Let's see what it says. Slide audio event to begin at the previous onset. Oh, okay. Well, now that's not going to work because we just split at the onsets, but you probably would have been able to check that out. Now, for each of these individual clips, or these individual events, we're going to have the ability to also change the scaling on these. So I could do that, and now we could listen. And now that little event is much different from its original. Okay, and that's really all I wanted to cover here. I just wanted to show you all of the different tools and tricks at your disposal from the inspector view. And just remember that based on where you click, you're going to get a different inspector panel that shows up. And so those are the 3 basic levels of hierarchy: track, clip, event. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you again in the next lesson.